NFL draft reaction, the quarterbacks of the future that the various teams have, quarterbacks of the present, what have they done to help them have a more fruitful future? And for Joe Burrow, the number 1 overall pick in 2020, job number 1 is protect him. Keep him from getting injured. Keep him from having to rehab another torn ACL. And, hey, I remember when Carson Palmer had his torn ACL. It took him a year to get to the point where he could plant that left leg comfortably. He was seeing ghosts. You know, are you going to, there's a lot of issues there. And instead of protecting him with Penei Sewell, they go Jamar Chase.
I know.
We said, hey, you can either get rid of the ball faster because the guy's open, or you can hold it a little longer because you're getting better blocking. They had to have at some level agonized over whether they were doing the right thing there, Chris.
I think so. I think it was quietly a big topic of conversation just around the league in general to know what they would do there, because it wasn't an easy choice. I think that there's, you could talk to some people in the league and they're going to go, man, it's awesome. We think Jamar Chase was special. That's great. And you could talk to other people in the league that I've had conversation with that go, man, Penei Sewell might be a Hall of Fame left tackle. You just don't pass that up and those type of things. So this is one of those things that, like a Trey Lance and a Mac Jones and a Justin Fields, how they're all going to be compared going forward. Jamar Chase's, stats and everything like that, he's going to be compared to Penei Sewell to a degree. There's no doubt. But either way, like what we talked about in the lead up to the draft is exactly what happened with Cincinnati. We knew there'd be some good offensive linemen there to be had at the top of the second round, and some really talented ones. And the guy they got in the second round, Jackson Carman, he's a big-time player. I mean, he really is. He has the potential to really be, I think, every bit as good as Penei Sewell. We're talking about a giant human being, a great athlete, great power. I think some of the mistakes you saw on film from him were more of the scheme that they do in Clemson and what they asked him to do. I don't think it was realistic always. So they rolled the dice and went that way on a kid that grew up, I think, not far from the Cincinnati Bengals practice facility. They have great knowledge of the guy altogether. And I think right away he slips in at guard. But ultimately, Mike, I think he's going to end up being the left tackle, and they're going to knock in what the hell is the Alabama's guy that they drafted in the first round, the tackle, Jonah. I'm blanking on his name a few years ago.
Hill?
No. The first round Alabama lineman they took 2 years ago that got hurt. You're not going to help me out. You can't remember either. It's going to kill me.
I can't remember either. I'm just going to sit here and keep my mouth shut. That's what the producer's for. The producer doesn't know either. Regardless, he's got Jonah Hill on his head too. Jonah Williams, close enough.
Jonah Williams, thank you. But what would you do?
Thanks,
what would you have done there? Would you have gone with the quarterback or would you have gone with the Penei Sewell?
Well, I wouldn't have gone with the quarterback.
I mean, I
would have gone with Penei Sewell.
Yeah.
But you know what? If you have a guy who can, especially for this year, help the interior of the offensive line, because if you are going to have a guy who's concerned about planting the left leg, you could argue it's more important to protect him up the middle than it is to protect him around the edge. Because if you're going to see ghosts, you're not going to see the ghosts around the edge. You need to have the protection right in front of you.
Stepping into it, like you said, right.
And that gets underrated. But what's the way to get to Tom Brady? It's not come around the edge. He's going to jump up in the pocket. He does that Madden glitch move that he does like no one else.
Right.
When the walls are caving in, he scoots up and throws the ball. You come up the middle like that, guard, center, and you collapse it that way, you got nowhere to go.
Yeah.
So if you got a guy who's going to be worried about planting his left leg, maybe they're operating next level in Cincinnati now. Get the receiver who's going to be dominant and who knows the guy, and then you get a great guard, and maybe you just need him to play guard for 1 year. So Joe Burrow gets his confidence back in that left leg. There may be some genius unfolding in the Queen City of Ohio.
Yeah, hopefully. We know that they need to protect Joe. That was an issue last year. He's got to protect himself. They got to open up some holes, for their Joe Mixon at running back. And they drafted some linemen later on in the draft too that I'm sure they're hoping can contribute, at least give them depth at the positions there and everything like that. So overall, they definitely helped out Joe Burrow. There's no doubt about that. But that's going to be the big question: is should they have gone Penei Sewell and taken a top receiver, in the top of the second round? And to me, I think there was a greater gap between the top receiver and who you could get at the top of the second round as compared to the tackle and the lineman you could get at the second round. And maybe I'm in the minority there because I'm a Jackson Carman fan and I think he's special. But I think I probably would have erred on doing what the Bengals did too.
Well, and it helped that Burrow and Chase have that relationship,
connection, right?
Especially since Chase sat out all of the 2020 season. He's one of the guys who chose to opt out, and even though we fully support that, it does create a practical dilemma when you're trying to project what a guy's going to do after not playing for a full year. But Chase clearly good enough to overcome that, and having that Burrow relationship didn't hurt. I still wonder if they could have traded down and still gotten Chase. It all comes down to whether or not the Dolphins would have taken Jalen Waddle over Chase. I was under the impression that they were going to take Waddle over Chase if both were on the board, but the Bengals, very conservative, small C conservative when it comes to this kind of stuff. They didn't want to take that chance. They wanted the guy that they wanted, and they got him. And I think they are moving in the right direction. It's not going to be easy. Toughest division in football, arguably, right now. But, they're doing what they have to do to put the weapons around Burrow and the help in place so he can stay healthy once he gets healthy. But this could be, look at that lineup of weapons.
It's pretty damn good.
They could be very, very good offensively, and they may need to be very, very good offensively with the Browns and the Ravens and the Steelers in the division.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I their defense, they've done some good things in free agency there and everything like that, but I do think it's going to be about them having to ride this offense, certainly. I don't think the defense is going to look at it and go, oh, this will be a top 10 unit in football or anything like that. The big thing, though, I mean, that's a special unit of skill guys, and if their offensive line can play at an above average level or towards the top half of the league or anything like that, they will be tough to match up with all those guys, and that'll make them a little bit of a scoring machine. And we saw Burrow when he kind of got in a groove there after the first few weeks of the season last year. I mean, he started picking people apart and making plays, and they beat some teams they shouldn't have beat and everything like that. So I'm really rooting for Joe Burrow. I hope he gets back close to 100% for the start of the year, and let's see what this Bengals team can do because it is a tough division, like you said.
Quarterback taking 5 spots after Burrow last year, who became the Offensive Rookie of the Year after he was thrust into service due to Tyrod Taylor's misadventures with Dr. Needle. Justin Herbert, did he get enough help from the Los Angeles Chargers to help him go next level? I know they really want to Penei Sewell, but they got lucky. Rashawn Slater fell to them at 13.
Yeah.
That has to be a huge bonus for a team that wants to avoid Justin Herbert getting himself injured.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I think that was the number one issue with their football team that had to be addressed. I mean, there was no doubt about it. The Chargers offensively got a lot of things to like. I mean, we know that. Receiving core is pretty damn good and special that way. But it is about, can they get a run game and be consistent there? And, of course, protect Justin Herbert. They've been working on this offensive line for the last 2 years. Slater's awesome. Kind of a can't-miss prospect that way. And the fact, too, of, okay, we think he can play tackle, but I don't think there's any doubt he can play guard and do all of that stuff too. So there's a little flexibility with the football player too here to just make sure you get the top 5 offensive linemen on the field together here in this year. But from that, again, I think that was the essential, big-time, most glaring need for the football team. And you're right. They're fortunate that a guy like Slater was still on the board there at pick 13. A lot of people viewed him as a top 10 pick.
It is amazing to me how the Chargers just can't register on the national radar screen.
Right.
They are the junior team in L.A. They're the tenants in the stadium that's owned by the Rams. But I think, and it's not going to help that, the Chiefs are as good as they are. And it definitely won't help if Aaron Rodgers ends up on the Broncos.
Seriously.
But the Chargers, I think, are there. The key is keeping their key players healthy. And if they can do that, they can be a factor. They were just 12-4 not that long ago, and you can make the argument that Justin Herbert is an upgrade over Phillip Rivers, all due respect to Phillip Rivers, but what we've seen from Herbert so far has been great, and the Chargers could be one of those teams where, like the Bills last year, when it happens, will say, we should have seen that coming.
Yeah, I agreed. I think they're definitely like one of those teams that you put in that category with like the Miami Dolphins, right? Even too. I'll even say the Carolina Panthers this year, like just got a little star next to them to go, of those teams that didn't make the playoffs, that this could be one of those teams. I mean, we talked about it a lot last year. That's what didn't make sense about their football team. I mean, there was a point last year where they had a top 10 offense and a top 10 defense in the league, in the NFL, both sides of the ball, but it wasn't translating to wins. So that tells you the roster, there's a lot good there. Defense really's got like zero needs at any level. They're special there. Offense, I mean, we talked, we just hit it. Herbert, with those receivers they got, I mean, he's got a great duo in Williams and Keenan Allen, some of those younger guys. They drafted a kid from Tennessee and Josh Palmer, who's a good all-around, can do everything receiver. They drafted a tight end in McKitty from Georgia, who's more of a long pass-catching tight end, Mike, maybe a lesser Gesicki down in Miami, just to paint a picture of the body, right? Like that longer type tight end, that kind of guy. So, yeah, they address their needs, and the Chargers, I'm with you, Mike. I think they're one of those teams where you just go, watch out. They could be in the mix of things, and Herbert, by all accounts, looks like he's going to be a superstar.
You mentioned the Dolphins as a team that you put a star next to as a potential playoff team. They got close last year. Did they do enough to help out Tua Tagovailoa? And that's a weird question to ask because it implies that they really want to help out Tua Tagovailoa. There's still a sense of ambivalence that emanates from the fact that he was benched on multiple occasions last year for Ryan Fitzpatrick, and now they have Jacoby Brissett as the guy who could be the quote-unquote relief pitcher, as Brian Flores used that term at one point last year. But do they have enough around Tua to help Tua become the best version of himself that he can be, Chris?
I think so. I do. They addressed their number one issue right off the bat, and that was like they needed that one. Who's the guy that we can give a reverse to or throw a short pass to on our football team that can do something and make a big play and like take the pressure off the offense a little bit and not always have to be about we got to run the ball, we got to execute. The offensive coordinator's got to call the exact perfect play all the time. Jalen Waddle's going to give them, some wiggle room there. He's a playmaker. And to go along with the two big receivers they got on the outside and Gesicki, holy crapola, Batman. And the biggest thing, too, is just like, yes, you get a Hunter Long in the third round, who you could argue is the best blocking tight end in the whole draft and has a little pass game value. So that's going to help out Tua in the offense. Liam Eichenberg is NFL ready to start right now. And the big thing is where I would just go, that's going to be big with Tua. Yeah, we got Jalen Waddle and Hunter Long and Liam Eichenberg, but the offensive line has got a first-rounder on it from last year and a second-rounder on it from last year. They're stacked up front. They are like putting on a clinic on team building with the Miami Dolphins. We're coming away with every position going, damn, is that one of the top units in football at that position? Damn, is that one of the top units? I mean, it's really getting scary what they're doing. So, yes, they help Tua out while also helping out their whole football team with two amazing defensive picks in the first and second round, too. So, I love what the Dolphins are doing. I'm a huge fan of Greer and Flores and what they're building down there.
AFC East potentially
right?
Extremely competitive. If Zach Wilson delivers on his promise with the Jets, the Patriots going all in to get better with their free agency spending, and now they have a quarterback to develop in Mac Jones. The Dolphins, if Tua becomes the guy that they thought he was when they made him the 5th overall pick, and with all this great help around him and the great coaching, and then the Bills. The Bills are the Bills. And
it's unreal.
A division that it may be hard. Remember how easy it was for the Patriots to pencil themselves in for the AFC Championship every year because they ran roughshod over the rest of the division. Now it's going to be, you got to scratch and claw, and you may not get that bye. You may never have a team coming out of that division getting a bye because they're going to be dragged down by the other teams as they scratch and claw each other to get to the top. So, good news, bad news. Very competitive division, but good luck laying the foundation to get to the Super Bowl. We're in a division that is that competitive. What about the Jaguars as we flip it to a non-competitive division?
Yeah.
Trevor Lawrence is clearly the guy, unquestioned. Did they do enough, and do they have enough to allow him to get to his ceiling, whatever it may be, sooner rather than later.
I believe so. I mean, again, like Miami, I think if you ask me like the 3 teams that won the draft, all right, that's where I'm going to go. The Jaguars, the Dolphins, the Jets would be the teams that I would throw out there right off the bat. I mean, the Jaguars, first off, just like they had a year of, I mean, a draft of like, it was like they were in my house for my draft evaluations. I loved their draft. I mean, yes, Trevor Lawrence, awesome, my second quarterback. ATN was my first running back. Tyson Campbell was my second corner. Walker Little, Mike, this is a guy nobody knows of because he opted out last year, and the year before that he tore his ACL. This is a, like, talent-wise, the man he is a top 10 offensive lineman talent they got in the second round. He's a top 10 pick if things are normal. So that's phenomenal. You got a safety who might be the most physically gifted safety in the whole draft, but tore his ACL last year, and Andre Cisco from Syracuse. And then even Jay Tufele from USC is a hell of a good player. But yes, I think they've done enough to help out Trevor Lawrence. Definitely. ATN was a great pick. There's no doubt. You know, just he's going to serve a lot of roles as far as what he can do for that offense. They got some weapons in free agency on the offensive side of the ball too. You know, I mean, and even in last year's draft. But to get Marvin Jones, they have Laviska Shenault. DJ Shark is one of the better receivers in football that nobody knows about. So I do think there's enough there, and they're building something that I like in Clemson, at least the way it looks right now. What about you?
You mentioned a couple of guys who were drafted by the Jaguars round 2 and 3 despite having torn ACLs. I'm stunned that former 49ers GM Trent Baalke would sign and draft guys who have torn ACLs. Wasn't that his thing? Like every year they were taking a chance on a guy with a torn ACL when he was the GM there.
Well, yeah.
And I don't remember a whole lot of them working out. Headlined
they took
by
the running back of that South Carolina.
Marcus Lattimore.
Right,
yeah.
right. And
but,
that was
others too.
Yeah,
there was a Florida State defensive lineman who fell out of round 1, who would have been a round 1 prospect. But that was kind of their thing.
It was.
They were never deterred by torn ACLs, and Trent Baalke's still not deterred. And look, it's not the injury it used to be.
No, it's not. That's right.
But some guys, they never quite get back to being who they were. But with the Jaguars and with this Urban Meyer experiment, I understand what they're doing from a business standpoint. They're trying to make the team attractive. They're trying to sell tickets, and it's working. It's a new day. It's a new page. It's a new approach. Will it work or not? I just want to wait and see, because every time we have one of these new approach coaches, Greg Schiano, Chip Kelly, these college guys are going to bring in all these new and different ways. I'm just skeptical. I choose to be skeptical because when was the last time a college coach took the NFL by storm? It was Jimmy Johnson 30 years ago. And maybe Urban Meyer. Maybe it's due. Maybe it's time. Maybe Urban Meyer's going to come in, and it's going to be Ohio State South, and they're going to be great right out of the gates. But,
you count Pete Carroll as like an NFL coach who went to college and then came back? Like, is that, yeah, okay. I just wanted to clarify that. Yeah.
I mean, now, he was better after his experience at USC.
Right.
Than he ever was before that, but you could argue he never really got a full and fair chance with the Jets or the Patriots.
Sure.
But I'm just skeptical because look, where were the other suitors for Urban Meyer? It's not like there was a land rush for Urban Meyer. There was one mention as he was closing in on a deal with the Jaguars that the Chargers had interest, and I think that was just posturing to get him whatever he got, and we still haven't heard what he got. I remember hearing he wanted $12 million, and there was like pushback. Oh, no, that's not a relevant number. Well, there's got to be a relevant. Were they paying him in Bitcoin? There's got to be a relevant number somewhere as to what the guy's getting paid. I just think that I'll believe it when I see it. I'm too familiar with what happened with Chip Kelly, what happened with Greg Schiano, when we get this, here comes this college coach, it's going to change everything. Let's see. And maybe they've got enough great players that it won't matter. We'll see what they can do. But they were 1-15 last year, so they got a lot of work to do to get back to the team that they almost were in 2017 when they nearly got to the Super Bowl. All right, Zach Wilson and the Jets, speaking of another team that I'll believe it when I see it. You love Zach Wilson. He was your number 1 quarterback. Do the Jets have enough, and have they done enough to get the help around Zach Wilson to make him what he needs to be?
I think so. I mean, I think that it's an organization that at least, like, I think at a base level, you could see they learn from past mistakes, or at least are aware of like how Sam Darnold was set up or not set up for any success with the New York Jets when he got drafted at number 3. So yes, again, you heard me say already, I think the Jets are one of the teams that won the draft. Okay, wait, we got a good quarterback. What are we going to do? All right. And we got a system where we like athletic linemen and do those things. All right, so now we got the quarterback that does that. All right, what are we going to do on the offensive line? They get a guy that's, I think they look at it and go, we think he's one of the better guards in the NFL right off the bat. They could throw him in right there. And I think he could play right tackle too. But then again, to get Elijah Moore to go with Corey Davis, and let's not forget they drafted Denzel Mims last year and all of that. So now you got a guy, again, a little bit like Jalen Waddle in Miami, a guy that can work the middle of the field, be a weapon, do those things in Elijah Moore. Great pick there. And then I think one of the steals of the draft, the fact that they got Michael Carter in the 4th round. I mean, they had to run to the podium at that point. He's the perfect fit for that offense. He's Devontae Freeman. We saw what Devontae Freeman did with Shanahan down in Atlanta. This is a guy that can break ankles, make people miss. He's a little bit of a smaller running back at like 200 pounds, but man, he can fly, and he's got great change of direction ability and all of those type of things. So, yes, I think they did the right thing to help support their young quarterback, and they're building a really, I think, an impressive roster there over the last 2 years with the New York Jets.
Bottom line is, though, at the end of the day, there's 32 teams, and for every good team, there must be a bad team.
Yep.
So, some of these teams,
We'll see.
and we're still in the afterglow of the selling of hope that comes from the draft, and every team has unlimited possibilities going in to 2021, and at some point they got to play the games, and people will stop being 0-0, and there will be teams that dip well below 500.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.